Have you ever had that feeling that someone somewhere is watching you? A prickle on the back of your neck, a shadow in the corner of your eye? What if I told you that feeling was real? What if I told you a story so strange, so chilling, it would make you question everything you thought you knew about the line between life and death? And hey, just out of curiosity, where are you guys watching from right now? Let me know in the comments. I'm always fascinated to see where my stories travel. Our story takes us back to a cold, foggy December in London, 1836. Imagine the cobbled streets, slick with rain, the gas lamps casting long, eerie shadows. This is the world of Hannah Brown, a young woman whose life was about to take a turn so bizarre, it would be talked about for generations. Hannah was just an ordinary girl, living in a modest house on a quiet London street. She worked hard, loved her family, and dreamed of a future filled with simple joys. But fate, or perhaps something far more sinister, had other plans. It all began with a dream. Or rather, a nightmare. Hannah started waking up in the middle of the night, gasping for air, her heart pounding in her chest. She would dream she was trapped, buried alive in a small, dark box, the sound of dirt thudding down on the lid above her. The dreams were so vivid, so terrifyingly real, she could almost taste the soil in her mouth. She tried to dismiss them as just bad dreams, a product of stress or an overactive imagination. But they kept coming, night after night, each one more intense than the last. She began to fear sleep itself. During the day, a strange sense of dread followed her like a shadow. She'd feel a sudden chill in a warm room, hear whispers when no one was there, see fleeting figures out of the corner of her eye. Her family and friends grew concerned. Hannah, once so lively and cheerful, was becoming a ghost of her former self. She was pale, thin, and her eyes were wide with a fear she couldn't explain. Doctors were called, but they were baffled. They diagnosed her with everything from hysteria to melancholia, but none of their remedies worked. The nightmares continued, the whispers grew louder, and Hannah felt herself slipping away. Then, one morning, Hannah didn't wake up. Her family found her in bed, cold and still. There was no pulse, no breath. The doctor, a grim-faced man named Dr. Davis, pronounced her dead. The cause of death was listed as a sudden, unexplained illness. Her family was devastated. How could their vibrant Hannah be gone, just like that? Amidst their grief, they began to make the final, heartbreaking arrangements. A simple wooden coffin was built, and a funeral was planned for 2 days later. London in the 1830s didn't wait long for burials. As Hannah's body lay in the coffin in the family's front parlor, a strange and unsettling atmosphere filled the house. Visitors who came to pay their respects spoke of an unnatural coldness in the room, a feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. Some even claimed to hear faint scratching sounds coming from inside the coffin. Most dismissed it as their grief-stricken minds playing tricks on them. But one person, Hannah's younger brother Thomas, couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. He had been closer to Hannah than anyone, and he refused to believe she was truly gone. He'd heard her terrified whispers about being buried alive, and a seed of doubt took root in his mind. The day of the funeral arrived, a bleak and gray London day. The mourners gathered, their faces etched with sorrow. The coffin was sealed, the final goodbyes were said, and the procession made its way to the local cemetery. As the pallbearers carried the coffin towards the freshly dug grave, a low moan echoed through the somber crowd. Everyone froze. They looked around, confused, thinking it was just the wind whistling through the tombstones. But then it came again, louder this time, a clear, desperate cry from within the coffin. Panic erupted. Some people screamed and ran, believing it to be a ghost or a bad omen. But Thomas, Hannah's brother, spurred into action by a surge of desperate hope, shouted for the pallbearers to stop. He grabbed a nearby spade and frantically began to pry open the lid of the coffin. The others, shaking off their fear, rushed to help. With a final crack of splintering wood, the lid was forced open. And there, inside, was Hannah Brown. Her eyes were wide with terror, her hands were raw and bleeding from clawing at the wood, and she was very, very much alive. The scene was one of chaos and disbelief. Hannah was lifted from her premature grave, wrapped in blankets, and rushed back home. Dr. Davis, the very same doctor who had pronounced her dead, was summoned. He was utterly dumbfounded. He examined her again and again, unable to explain how a woman with no vital signs could suddenly come back to life. He had checked for a pulse, for breath, for any sign of life, and had found none. It was medically impossible. He had signed the death certificate himself. News of Hannah's resurrection spread like wildfire through London. It became the talk of the town, a sensational story whispered in pubs, parlors, and marketplaces. People flocked to her street, hoping to catch a glimpse of the girl who had come back from the dead. Newspapers printed lurid headlines, calling it a miracle, a hoax, or a case of demonic possession. The family was hounded by reporters, curiosity seekers, and religious fanatics. It was a harrowing ordeal, a public spectacle that turned their private grief and subsequent relief into a circus. But here's where the story takes an even stranger, more chillaxing turn. Once the initial shock and media frenzy died down, Hannah's life didn't just return to normal. It became better. Much better. The terrifying nightmares that had plagued her, they vanished completely. The constant anxiety, the chilling whispers, the feeling of being watched, all gone. It was as if her brush with the grave had purged her of whatever darkness had been tormenting her. Hannah described her experience not as a terrifying near-death event, but as a profound and peaceful sleep. She had no memory of being in the coffin, no recollection of the fear or the panic. Her last memory was of feeling tired and falling asleep in her own bed. Her next was waking up to the faces of her shocked family looking down at her. She felt refreshed, reborn. The fear that had consumed her was replaced by a strange and unshakable sense of calm. She said it was like she had faced the worst thing imaginable and survived, and now nothing could ever truly frighten her again. This newfound peace had a remarkable effect on her. Hannah, who had been withdrawn and frail, blossomed. She became known in her community for her serene presence and her quiet wisdom. People who were struggling with their own fears or anxieties would seek her out, and she would simply sit with them, her calming energy seeming to soothe their troubled minds. She never claimed to have any special powers. She simply shared her story and her perspective, that even in our darkest moments, there can be an unexpected peace. And what about Drive. Davis, the doctor who had mistakenly declared her dead? His reputation was understandably in tatters. He became a cautionary tale among the medical community. But the case of Hannah Brown also sparked a crucial debate about the methods used to determine death. In the 19th century, mistakes were more common than we might think. People suffered from conditions like catalepsy, a state of suspended animation that could easily be mistaken for death. Hannah's case led to the development of what were known as waiting mortuaries, places where the deceased would be kept for a few days and observed for any signs of life before burial. Safety coffins were even designed, equipped with bells and breathing tubes, all because of the fear of being buried alive, a fear that Hannah's story made terrifyingly real for the public. Hannah Brown went on to live a long, happy, and remarkably uneventful life. She married, had children, and grew old, surrounded by a family who cherished every extra moment they had with her. She never again experienced the strange phenomena that preceded her death. It was as if she had been caught in a tug-of-war between two worlds, and against all odds, our world had won. Her story became a local legend, a strange and wonderful piece of London folklore. The girl who was buried alive and came back to life, not as a vengeful spirit, but as a beacon of tranquility. So, what really happened to Hannah Brown? Was it a medical misdiagnosis of a rare condition like catalepsy? Was it a psychological phenomenon, a psychosomatic response to extreme anxiety? Or was it something else entirely? Something supernatural? A glimpse into the world beyond, followed by a miraculous return? We'll likely never know for sure. The records from that time are sparse, and the story has been filtered through generations of retelling. But what I find most fascinating isn't just the harrowing part, the horror of being buried alive. It's the chillaxing part that comes after. The idea that going through something so terrifying could lead to a state of ultimate peace is a powerful concept. It's a reminder that sometimes our greatest fears, when faced, can lose their power over us. Hannah's story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a bizarre and beautiful anecdote from history that blurs the lines between horror and hope, between science and the supernatural. It's a chilling tale that, oddly enough, might just leave you feeling a little more at peace. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back to 1830s London. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the strange and fascinating corners of history. Let me know in the comments what you think happened to Hannah Brown. I'd love to hear your theories. Until next time, stay curious.